So when I spoke to you back in February and we revealed our forecast that the Reserve Bank would be cutting rates on 2 occasions in the second half of 2019, it came as a fair surprise. In fact, some of the other majors are still talking about rate increases, and the general market expectation was that rates wouldn't move at all in 2019. So we're very pleased to see that those 2 rate cuts have now been delivered in June and July. And looking forward, back in May, we actually predicted that there would be 3 cuts. We added another one to the portfolio, even though we hadn't seen the first one. So we've had the 2 cuts in June and July, but we're still expecting to see another move in November. The Reserve Bank Governor has clearly tied policy to the outlook for the labour market, and he has a sort of a target in mind of a 4.5% unemployment rate. Well, with unemployment at 5.2% and the economy growing at less than a 2% pace, it's extremely unlikely that he'll be able to achieve that. So we're pretty confident that we will see that next interest rate cut delivered. What about after that? Well, it very much depends upon the capacity of the banks to act on those interest rate cuts. And whilst the first 2 cuts have seen the banks respond very, very positively indeed, it's going to become harder and harder for those interest rate cuts to be channeled through to the consumer, and particularly helping the consumer in the housing market. So we expect that the next cut is likely to be the last one. But we also believe that that the risks continue to be to the downside. We've been encouraged by the response of some of the high frequency indicators around housing, particularly around auction clearance rates, and some of the responses in our consumer sentiment survey around housing. But on the other hand, the consumer has also been quite downbeat. We've seen almost a 10% fall in consumer sentiment in the last few months. And so that critical part of the economy, which is the consumer, does appear still to be quite benign in terms of the growth outlook. And that's even though we haven't seen the impact of the tax cuts, which we think will be important, but the overall environment we think will remain fairly soft and certainly consistent with that extra rate cut that we expect to see in November.